I took a DNA test, uncovered my wife's 12-year affair, and disappeared. Infidelity shattered everything. Looking back at the moment my world unraveled feels surreal, though in retrospect, the warning signs were always there. I'd always prided myself on being a loyal, dependable man, putting my family above all else. Like anyone, I had moments of insecurity, but I held on to the belief that my devotion would be reciprocated. Maybe I was foolish, or maybe I simply wanted to believe that my marriage was as strong as I imagined. Yet even back then, there were nights when I'd lie awake, questioning Linda's frequent absences, her extended business trips, and the subtle shifts in her behavior that I never had the courage to confront. The day I decided to hire John Michaels, a private investigator, a wave of guilt and dread washed over me. That choice shattered the fragile sense of peace I had tried to maintain, pulling me into a web of doubt and suspicion. I never saw myself as the type of man who would need to investigate his own wife, but the unease had taken root so deeply that I couldn't ignore it anymore. Still, I was utterly unprepared for the devastating truth or the way it would destroy the life I thought I had built. Sitting in John's office that day, clutching an envelope that held my worst fears in black and white, I knew there was no turning back. "I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Mr. Walker," John said, handing me the envelope. Inside was an extensive report detailing my wife's affair with her former boss, Grant Jacobs. Alongside the written summary were photos and a DVD. While I had already seen some of the pictures, I hadn't yet gathered the strength to watch the video evidence. I avoided John's gaze, but I knew I needed to confront the harsh reality of what he had uncovered. "How long has this been happening?" I asked, my voice hoarse. John flipped through his notes before answering. "Based on the records, we estimate at least a decade, maybe even 12 years. It appears to have started around the time your wife was up for a major promotion. That was just a year after our daughter, Sophie, was born." My stomach churned at the implications. I had to do a DNA test to confirm if the kids were truly mine. Then another horrifying thought struck me. "What about sexually transmitted diseases?" I asked, barely able to get the words out. The report revealed that Grant and Linda had been involved with multiple other married women over the years. The idea that she had exposed me to this risk all along made me feel sick. I needed to get tested immediately. I skimmed the report again, letting out a bitter laugh at John's note that Linda seemed oblivious to Grant's other affairs. "If it's any consolation, Mr. Walker," John added, "her lover never planned to break up your marriage. He only wanted her body." He hesitated before continuing. "And for what it's worth, they never did anything in your house. When I first hired John, I let him install discreet cameras and microphones in our home. At least my bed hadn't been tainted by Grant's presence. But that was no comfort." "That's not reassuring, Mr. Michaels," I muttered, meeting his gaze. "But thank you for telling me." I had met Grant Jacobs a handful of times and never liked him. He was conventionally attractive, but carried himself with a smug arrogance that always rubbed me the wrong way. More than once I had felt the urge to wipe that smirk off his face. Now I finally understood why it was there. "There's more," John continued, his tone heavy. "From our findings, Grant's sister, Natalie, has known about the affair from the very beginning. In fact, she may have even facilitated it." That revelation stung. I had always considered Natalie to be kind-hearted, the complete opposite of her brother. "Damn," I muttered, the betrayal sinking in even deeper. "Have you spoken to a lawyer yet?" John asked. "Not yet," I admitted. "I wanted to know the full truth first." "Well, I work closely with Lisa Hawkins. She's one of the best in the field, and she despises cheaters," he said. "If you'd like, I can forward her this file and let her know to expect your call." "That would be great," I replied, taking the business card he handed me and slipping it into my pocket. John hesitated before offering a final piece of advice. "Can I suggest something?" "Go ahead," I nodded. "Let Lisa take care of this for you," he said gently. "I know you're in pain, and you might feel the urge to lash out, but it's not worth doing something that could land you in jail. You have 2 kids to think about." I nodded slowly. "I understand. Thank you, John." I settled the bill and left his office, my mind reeling. My entire marriage had been a lie. The weight of it was suffocating. I sat in my car for a long moment, letting myself finally break down. I cried, allowing the grief and rage to crash over me. Then, taking a deep breath, I reached for the business card John had given me, dialed Lisa Hawkins' office, and scheduled a consultation for the following day. Lisa sent over a list of documents I needed to bring to our meeting. As I drove home, I pulled into a convenience store and bought a pack of cigarettes, a habit I had abandoned back in college. I had no idea what the future held, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. I was a little nervous, but I was confident I'd get through this. Then I ended up at a bar, drowning my sorrows in beer. I was never much of a drinker, but that night, it felt justified. "You okay, buddy?" the bartender asked as I took a drag from my cigarette. I looked up, caught off guard. "Is it that obvious?" "Afraid so," he replied with a small smile. "Let me guess, you just found out your wife's been unfaithful." "Yeah, pretty much," I admitted. "It's been going on for the last 12 years, if you can believe it." "I can believe it," he said, shaking his head. "I've seen and heard just about everything. I bet," I muttered. He chuckled softly before continuing. "Mind if I share something my granddad used to say?" "Go ahead," I said, curious despite myself. "I once felt sorry for myself for not having shoes. Then I met a man who didn't have feet," he said. "I know you're hurting. I've been there, but it gets better. And believe me, some guys have had it even worse. Your grandfather must have been a wise man." "He was," the bartender nodded. "Finish your beer and go home, son. Keep yourself busy. You won't find any answers at the bottom of that glass." I nodded, appreciating his words. I stayed a little longer, finishing my drink and reflecting on my years with Linda. The small moments that made me suspicious, but never seemed enough to confront her. After our second child, Sophie, was born, I had a vasectomy. Yet Linda remained on birth control. When I asked her about it, she dismissed it, saying it was for hormonal balance and extra precaution. It struck me as odd, but I trusted her. Now, knowing the truth, all those dismissed suspicions fell into place. I remembered calling her during one of her supposed work trips. She always answered from her hotel room, but sometimes I thought I heard a man's voice or sensed hesitation in her replies. And when she returned home, I occasionally caught the faint scent of Grant's cologne on her clothes, a fragrance I recognized from our brief encounters. I had convinced myself it was nothing. Now I knew better. I got back into my car, feeling like I was on autopilot. The confrontation ahead would be agonizing, but at least now I had the truth. When I pulled into the driveway, her car was already in the garage. To my surprise, she was home. I closed the garage door, stepped inside, took off my jacket, and started toward my office. Linda intercepted me, quickly picking up on the scent of cigarettes and beer. "You smoked?" she asked, frowning. "And I smell beer. Is everything okay, John?" "No," I replied. "Actually, today was the worst day of my life." Her face shifted into concern. What happened? Did someone die? I could see the worry in her eyes, but part of me wondered if it was genuine or just an act. I'm heading to my office for the evening, I told her. I'm not great company right now. Is there anything I can do, honey? She asked softly. Yes, I thought. But instead I said, I'm afraid there's nothing you can do. She hesitated, looking uncertain. Oh, by the way, John, I'm going away for the weekend, starting Friday. It's only Tuesday and you're already telling me you're leaving for the weekend, I asked, my voice laced with sarcasm. Yes, but something's come up, she replied. It's just business, you know. Sure, I scoffed. And what about Sophie's birthday on Saturday? I know, she said, but this can't be avoided. Could you explain to her why I won't be there? No, I answered firmly. I'm done covering for you. You missed Erin's birthday last year and our anniversary. You can tell our daughter yourself why you're choosing to be with Grant rather than attending her birthday. Linda didn't like that. She sighed heavily. John, please, you're being unreasonable. No, Linda, I shot back. You supposedly retired months ago after the company was sold. Yet you've been gone more than ever. So tell me, what's really going on? Her expression darkened. Are you accusing me of having an affair? What would you think if the roles were reversed? I asked, my voice steady. Her posture softened, her defensive edge fading. I understand, she said quietly. But believe me, it's just business. I shook my head, feeling drained. That's what you've always said. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have things to do. Please don't bother me tonight. You'll need to watch the kids. Without another word, I walked into my home office, shut the door, and locked it. Moments later, I heard Linda try the handle, then knock softly. John? She called from the other side. Please, John, talk to me. I clenched my jaw. Leave it alone, Linda. I'm busy. There was a brief silence before I heard her footsteps, retreating. Taking a deep breath, I sat down and began organizing all the evidence I'd gathered. Everything Lisa had said I'd need. My eyes landed on John's report, and I picked it up, reading through each painful line. Every word felt like a gut punch, forcing me to acknowledge that the woman I had loved and trusted for 12 years had been deceiving me all along. Slipping on my headphones, I inserted the DVD and braced myself for what I was about to witness. As the footage played, any lingering affection I had for Linda was slowly replaced by an unsettling numbness. Their conversations made my stomach turn, yet I forced myself to listen. Still good for this weekend? Grant asked, pulling her into his arms. Of course, Linda answered with a smile. You know I can't go too long without you. What about your daughter's birthday? He raised an eyebrow. Isn't it this weekend? Yes, she replied, almost dismissively. But John will be there. He's better with the kids than I am. And if I had to choose, I'd rather be with you. Grant hesitated, a flicker of doubt in his expression. I'm worried he's starting to get suspicious. Shouldn't you be more careful? Linda laughed, shaking her head. Retired or not, Grant, I'm not giving you up. I love my family and John in my own way, but I refuse to let go of what we have. She looked at him with complete certainty. Never. I ripped off my headphones, my heart pounding as anger pulsed through me. My hands trembled as I placed the DVD back in its case and locked it away. Just as I did, a knock came at my office door. John? Linda's voice was softer than usual, almost hesitant. What? I snapped, barely able to contain my frustration. Can you come say goodnight to the kids? Fine, just for a minute. I ignored her, heading upstairs to tuck Sophie into bed. "Are you okay, Dad?" she asked, her small voice filled with concern. I forced a smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Now get some sleep. I love you." "I love you too, Dad." She hugged me tightly and I held her for a moment, wishing I could protect her from the inevitable fallout. As I stepped out of her room, Linda was waiting in the hallway. "I warmed up dinner for you," she said. "It's on the table." "I'm not hungry," I replied, brushing past her and heading outside. Sitting on the patio, I lit a cigarette, staring into the dark sky. A few minutes later, Linda joined me. She leaned in, trying to kiss me, but I turned my head. Her lips barely grazed my cheek. "What's wrong?" she asked, her eyes filled with worry. "You're acting different." I exhaled a cloud of smoke, my voice cold. "We don't always get what we want, do we?" Her forehead creased in confusion. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Forget it, Linda." She reached for my hand. "Please, John, talk to me. You can tell me anything." I met her gaze through the haze. "It's too late for that." Her posture stiffened. "Too late for what? I don't understand." I scoffed, shaking my head. "Come on, Linda. You're not stupid. Figure it out." Her expression shifted. Hurt, uncertainty, maybe even fear. "John, please, just talk to me." I stood up, tossing the cigarette onto the ground and crushing it under my shoe. "Leave it alone, Linda." My voice was firmer this time, the anger slipping through. "I need time to think." She hesitated before nodding quietly. "Okay." With tears welling in her eyes, she turned and walked back inside. I sat there for hours, staring at nothing, until exhaustion finally pulled me inside. Instead of going to our bedroom, I lay down on the futon in my office. Sleep didn't come easy. The next morning, I moved through the routine like a ghost. I made breakfast for the kids, helped them get ready, and sent them off to school, all while ignoring Linda's lingering presence. When they were gone, so was she. At work, I explained the situation to my boss. He listened, his expression sympathetic, before placing a hand on my shoulder. "Do what you need to do, John. If you need time off, just say the word." I nodded in gratitude, knowing I had a long road ahead. That afternoon, I met Lisa Hawkins, my divorce attorney. She greeted me with a firm handshake and a warm but professional smile. "Good afternoon, Mr. Walker," she said. "Please call me John." "Then call me Lisa," she replied, gesturing for me to sit. "I've reviewed the report Mr. Michaels sent over. I'm truly sorry you're going through this. It never gets easier seeing things like this. How are you holding up?" "Not great," I admitted. She nodded, understanding. "Have you confronted her yet?" "Not exactly. I was short with her last night, but I haven't laid everything out yet. For now, try to remain composed," Lisa advised. "If possible, let her think everything is normal. Soon enough, she'll have no choice but to face the consequences." I took a deep breath. "I'll do my best." Lisa nodded approvingly. "Good. Now let's talk about what you want from this divorce." I didn't hesitate. "As much as I can, especially custody of the kids." She leaned back slightly, considering. "That will be the toughest part. In most cases, custody usually goes to the mother." "I've been the primary caregiver for years," I countered. "She even admits in the videos that I'm better with the kids, and she's willing to miss our daughter's birthday to be with her lover. Doesn't that count for something?" Lisa nodded. "It does. We can use that." She meticulously reviewed my financials, scanning each document. "Your wife received a significant payout from her company's sale, and her monthly dividends are close to your salary. That works in your favor." "So no alimony?" I asked, a glimmer of hope in my voice. Lisa nodded. or very little. If we secure primary custody for you, we could even push for her to pay child support. And the house, I pressed. If you gain custody, you can stay in the house and will request that she cover half the mortgage, she explained. But if she gets custody, you'd be responsible for the payments. Another option would be to sell the house and split the proceeds. And our pensions and accounts. Retirement accounts can be excluded from division, Lisa assured me. Each of you would keep your own 401k. The rest will be split evenly, which is standard practice. I leaned forward. What about Grant Jacobs? Can I sue him for alienation of affection? Lisa shook her head. Not in this state. But we can bring him into the divorce proceedings. What about intentional infliction of emotional distress? It's possible, but difficult to prove. We'd need clear evidence that his actions directly caused you significant harm beyond the affair itself. I exhaled slowly, my jaw tightening. Can we at least make sure he's served personally? Lisa nodded. We can arrange that, though a weekend process server will cost extra. That's fine. Do it. Understood, John. We ended the meeting with a firm handshake. Before I left, she reminded me to stay composed and avoid doing anything rash. I handed over my deposit check, then walked out of her office feeling something I hadn't in days: control. When I arrived home, I was slightly surprised to see Linda's car in the garage. It was Wednesday. I had expected her to be at work. Out of curiosity, I touched the hood, still warm. She hadn't been home long. As I stepped inside, the rich aroma of something cooking filled the air. Hi, honey, Linda greeted me, stepping out of the kitchen. You're home a little early. Everything okay? Yeah, I replied. She studied me carefully. I hope you're in a better mood than yesterday. I gave a slight nod. A bit. I'm taking control of things. Her lips curved into a small smile. That's good to hear. Are you ready for dinner? I made a roast, your favorite. I inhaled deeply, catching the scent. Smells great. I'll have some. As we sat down, I casually asked, Did you go to work today? She nodded. Just for a few hours. I'm getting things set for the weekend. I set down my fork. Did you talk to Sophie? Linda sighed. Yes, but she's not thrilled. She waved a hand dismissively. But she's young, she'll get over it. I clenched my jaw but forced my expression to remain neutral. The kids. In their rooms, doing homework, she answered. So you're still going on this trip with Grant? I asked, my voice steady but tense. Her eyes flickered, but she kept her tone firm. Yes, as I said, it's strictly business. I studied her for a moment before shifting topics. When do you plan to fully retire? She arched a brow. I already am retired. They just need my expertise now and then. With all the hours you put in, you could be getting paid, I noted. Why does that matter? She asked. Because I'll bring in more once I retire, I replied vaguely, rising from the table. I placed my briefcase in my office and changed into something more comfortable before returning to finish dinner. I complimented her on the roast. It was good. She had always been a great cook, something I realized I'd miss. After spending some time with the kids, I retreated to my office and locked the door. A few moments later, I heard Linda trying the handle. When she found it locked, she knocked softly. John? I cracked the door open just enough to see her face. Are you staying in here tonight? She asked hesitantly. I think so. I kept my voice calm. I need to clear my head, and I don't want you getting sick before your trip, so I'll sleep on the futon tonight. She hesitated, then nodded. Oh, all right. A pause. Get some rest, John. I love you. I didn't respond. I just closed the door. Yeah, me too. I said, shutting the door behind her. I listened as her footsteps faded, then turned back to my computer and got to work. A quick search led me to what I needed. I filled out a form, then checked my email for confirmation. Jotting down the phone number, I set a reminder to call the next day to finalize everything. Thursday played out much like Wednesday, except this time, Linda tried seducing me, wearing a skimpy nightgown. I had always found her attractive, but knowing what she'd been doing with Grant, I felt nothing now. "Sorry, Linda. I have a terrible migraine," I murmured. "I'll take some medicine and sleep in the office." A single tear slipped down her cheek as she turned away, but I felt no pity. The next day she called around noon. "I'm heading out now," she said. "I hope you feel better, John. Maybe we can reconnect when I get back on Monday. My parents will pick up the kids after school and bring them home tomorrow afternoon for Sophie's birthday party." "Thanks for letting me know," I replied. "I really do love you, John. I hope you believe that." "Sure," I said flatly. "Bon voyage, Linda." I ended the call and immediately dialed Lisa's number. "I'm finalizing the paperwork now, John," she informed me. "Tomorrow at 5:30 p.m., they'll be served at Grant's house, as requested. Natalie's filing will happen Monday." "Thanks, Lisa," I said before hanging up. I let my assistant know I was leaving early, locked up my office, and headed home. There was plenty to handle before the movers arrived that afternoon. In the garage, I'd set aside several boxes just for this moment. By the time I finished packing, the movers had arrived. They worked quickly, loading everything into the truck. At 5 p.m., it was all done, except for one final item. I carefully handled Linda's wedding dress, placing the tattered remains into a paper bag. I folded it closed and tucked an envelope inside with a brief note. Then I handed the package to one of the movers. "Make sure this gets to Linda at Grant's house tomorrow at 5:30 p.m., I instructed, slipping two $50 bills into his hand as a tip. "I'll handle it personally, Mr. Walker," the young man assured me. "Good," I nodded. "Thanks." That evening, I reheated leftover roast and ate in the living room while watching TV. For the first time in a while, I slept peacefully in the master bedroom. The next day, I was up and busy preparing the yard for Sophie's birthday party, set to start at 3 p.m. Linda had ordered a cake, which I picked up that morning and stored in the fridge. "You've been hard at work," Linda's mother, Rhonda, remarked as she stepped inside. "Didn't have much choice," I replied, "just hoping everything goes smoothly." "I'm sure the kids will have a wonderful time," she said. Then, with a hesitant look, she added, "Did Sophie mention Linda won't be here?" "Yeah," I nodded. "Can you believe she'd miss her own daughter's birthday?" Rhonda shook her head. "I just don't understand it." Then, after a pause, she studied me carefully. "John, is everything okay between you two?" I sent the kids upstairs to get ready before turning to face Rhonda and her husband, George. "No, things are not okay," I admitted. "And soon, you'll understand why. I'm divorcing Linda." George's eyes widened. "What? Why?" "I found out she's been having an affair with her boss for the past 12 years, I said, my voice steady. "That's exactly what she's doing right now." Rhonda gasped. "Oh my God, are you absolutely sure?" "Yes, I've had my suspicions for a while. After her so-called retirement last month, I hired an investigator. I have his full report. Photos, videos, everything." Rhonda paled. "I don't need to see it, but is there no chance you'd ever forgive her?" "Not after all this time," I said firmly. George, on the other hand, looked furious. "I want to see that report," he muttered. "I just can't believe she'd throw everything away like this." "While you do that, I'll finish setting up for Sophie's party, Rhonda offered, clearly shaken. I nodded, leading George inside. Handing him a copy of the investigator's report, I watched as he read through the damning details. His face hardened as he flipped through the pages, his hands gripping the paper tightly. When he finally looked up, his expression was grim. "That foolish woman," he muttered. "John, I'm so sorry. She's my daughter, but this is a lot to process." "Now you know how I feel," I replied. "And what about that idiot Grant?" he asked. "I've already filed a lawsuit against him and his sister for emotional distress," I stated. George let out a bitter snort. "Good. This guy stole your wife, carried on a long affair with her, and you're just suing him? Do you really think that lawsuit will do anything?" "I know, George," I sighed. "Believe me, I'd love to take a tire iron to his face, but that would just land me in jail. I have 2 kids to think about. I can't be there for them if I'm locked up." George nodded thoughtfully. "You're probably right. Still, from that report, it looks like Grant has a habit of going after married women. I wouldn't be surprised if Linda wasn't his first." "Probably not," I agreed. George crossed his arms. "Listen, John, why don't you let me handle that dirtbag? He's not worth you risking your future over. And don't worry, son," he added with a reassuring nod. "No one's going to jail." I glanced at him. George was a big guy, tough, built like a truck. I'd also met some of his Keo workers before. Strong, no-nonsense men who always had each other's backs. "What exactly are you planning to do?" I asked. George grinned. "The less you know, the better." I smirked. "All right, whatever you say." He patted my shoulder. "Come on, John. Let's go enjoy the party with the kids." When we stepped outside, Rhonda had finished setting up everything for Sophie's birthday. Sophie came downstairs, her face lighting up when she saw the decorations. "Thank you, Dad," she squealed, throwing her arms around my neck. "It looks amazing. I just wish Mom was here to see it." "Me too," I said gently. "But we'll take some pictures for her to look at later, okay?" "Okay," she nodded. I got the grill going, flipping burgers and hot dogs, while the backyard filled with laughter. Around 4:30 p.m., the doorbell rang. The party had officially begun. Over the next 30 minutes, more than a dozen parents arrived with their kids, all friends of Sophie's from school, who ran excitedly into the yard. One of the last to arrive was Natalie, alongside her husband, Ralph, and their daughter, Denise. I welcomed them in, pointing Denise toward the backyard, where the fun was already in full swing. "Can I get you two something to drink?" I offered. "Sure," Natalie said, accepting as Ralph nodded. "I'm surprised to see you, Natalie. Didn't you have a big business trip this weekend?" "That's all Grant and Linda's work," she sighed. "I'm just their assistant. I stayed back at the office." "Right," I said flatly. She studied me for a moment before speaking. "John, is everything okay between you and Linda?" I raised an eyebrow. "Why do you ask?" "You're not wearing your wedding ring," she pointed out. I glanced at my hand, noticing the faint indentation where the ring had been. "I gave it back to her," I said. "Maybe Grant will have better luck with it." Her eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Oh, come on, Natalie. Don't play dumb," I said. "I know your brother has been screwing my wife for 12 years. You all did a great job keeping me in the dark." "John, Linda still loves you," she insisted. I let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, she loved me so much that she lied and cheated for over a decade. Never felt more loved in my life. She winced. "So, what are you going to do?" "What do you think? I'm divorcing her," I said. "She and Grant are about to get what they deserve." I glanced at my watch. "Will they be served?" she asked. Yes, Linda will get her divorce papers tomorrow and I'm suing Grant. You'll get your papers on Monday. Why me? I didn't do anything, Natalie protested. Exactly, I shot back. For over a decade, you knew what they were doing. Hell, my investigator even suggested you helped cover for them. And yet, you acted like my friend all these years. How many times did you sit in my house, eat at my table, enjoy my hospitality, knowing what Linda was doing with your brother? Did you enjoy watching me be played for a fool? She swallowed hard, guilt written all over her face. Because of you, I continued, my voice cold. My marriage is in ruins. My family is shattered. My kids have lost their mother. I'll never trust anyone the same way again. I hope you're happy with your choices. I'm not happy at all, she whispered. I'm sorry. I shook my head. Sorry doesn't erase 12 years of betrayal, Natalie. For 12 years, you, Grant, and Linda made choices that destroyed my family. You didn't care what it did to me or the kids. And now, you finally succeeded. It wasn't like that, John, she pleaded. Wasn't it? I snapped. Then what was it? Just business between the three of you? She hesitated before answering. At first, yeah, she admitted quietly. It was all Grant's idea. She wanted a job and he made an offer. She agreed. I stared at her, my stomach twisting. And you just let it happen? Natalie didn't answer. For the first time, I saw her for what she truly was. Not just Grant's sister, not just Linda's friend. She was a co-conspirator in my downfall. And now, it was time for them all to pay. You wouldn't, Randall, I said. Show me the truth this time. Spokojnej noci, Mama, Juan szepnul. Juan, the second most influential yet seemingly ordinary man, was like a brushstroke in the painting of everyday life. I admired his boldness in telling evolutionary stories. Yet even with my own expertise, I found myself deeply influenced by his mind. It struck me as essential to warn him about the ideals he absorbed, his unwavering faith in his own philosophy, and his defiance of his professors. Oh, and Natalie, I called after her. She turned back, eyes questioning. Don't come back, I said. Tears welled up in her eyes as she turned and walked away, Denise and Ralph at her side. Meanwhile, Linda and Grant lay entangled in his bed when her phone buzzed. Assuming it was John sending pictures from Sophie's party, she reached for it, only to freeze at the message from Natalie. He knows everything. Oh, damn, she muttered under her breath. What's wrong? Grant asked, his brow furrowing. It's Natalie. John knows, Linda whispered. You should probably stay here, Grant suggested. No, she said, slipping on her robe. I need to go home. As she stood to leave, the doorbell rang. Who could that be? Grant wondered, hurriedly pulling on his pants and tying his robe as he made his way downstairs, Linda close behind. Opening the door, they found a man in a light jacket. Can I help you? Grant asked. Are you Grant Jacobs? The man inquired. Yes, Grant answered cautiously. And Linda Walker. That's me, Linda said, stepping forward. The man held out an envelope. I have documents for both of you. What is this about? Grant demanded. Without answering, the man checked Grant's ID, then handed him the envelope. You've been served, he stated, turning to Linda. Miss Walker, may I see your ID? Linda complied, handing over her license. After verifying it, the man handed her another envelope. You've been served, he repeated. Additionally, there is a restraining order. You both must stay at least 500 feet away from John Walker, his home, his workplace, and his children's school. Any violation could result in... What? 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 The words pounded in Linda's head as the man turned and walked away. Inside, Men carried in several boxes, stacking them in the front room as Grant directed them. Linda tore open the envelope and gasped. Inside was John's wedding ring, a shredded marriage certificate, and a typed letter. Her hands shook as she read, "Linda, throughout our marriage, I loved and supported you. Imagine my devastation upon discovering your 12-year affair with Grant Jacobs. You repaid my love with deceit and betrayal. You told me it was just business, but now I see the truth. I hope it was worth it. Our finances are already divided. The locks have been changed. I will be seeking full custody, though I won't deny you visitation. Contact my lawyer to finalize arrangements. If you need anything else, go through legal channels. I don't want to hear from you again. For the sake of our children, don't contest the divorce terms. But if you do, know that I'm prepared to fight. I have photos, videos, and a private investigator's report. I haven't told the kids the truth yet, but when the time is right, I will. Your parents have seen the report, though not the photos. Linda, you are dead to me. Goodbye." John tears blurred Linda's vision. She reached into a paper bag and pulled out the ashes of her wedding dress. A strangled sob escaped her lips as she collapsed to the floor. Grant picked up the letter, his face darkening as he read. "That fool," he muttered. "He has no idea who he's messing with. I'll make him regret this." "No, Grant," Linda choked out. "Please, I don't want you in jail. This is my fault." Grant exhaled sharply, gripping the letter tighter. "He's suing you for emotional distress. $5 million. Linda let out a shaky breath. "Do you think he'll go after Natalie too?" "Let's find out," Grant said, already dialing. "If he does, we need a plan." Later that night, after the birthday party ended, I stood among the remnants of laughter and celebration, surveying the mess left behind. Sophie approached me, eyes brimming with emotion. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" I asked, pulling her into a hug. I wish Mom were here," she whispered. I swallowed hard. I miss her too, but she had other things to do tonight. Sophie's lip trembled. "Are you divorcing her?" I hesitated. "We'll talk about it later, okay?" Aaron, standing nearby, crossed his arms. "It's because of Grant, isn't it?" I exhaled, my exhaustion weighing on me. "Why do you ask that?" "I overheard her on the phone with him," Aaron admitted. "Let's discuss it tomorrow," I said gently. "Tonight is about Sophie. Can you help me clean up?" Aaron sighed but nodded. "Sure, Dad." I ruffled his hair and pulled Sophie close, wiping a tear from her cheek. "Everything will be okay," I promised. As the night wound down, Rhonda and George stayed behind to help clean up. And for a fleeting moment, as I watched my children pick up the pieces, I wondered if I could do the same. "Will you be all right, John?" Rhonda asked. "Yes, thank you for everything," I replied. Once they left, I locked the doors, went to bed, and fell asleep almost instantly. The next morning, I made breakfast, mowed the lawn, and helped Aaron trim the bushes. By noon, Sophie was in the kitchen, assembling sandwiches for us. That evening, after clearing the table, Sophie looked at me intently. "Okay, Dad, tell us what's going on," she said. I'd been expecting this moment. Gathering the kids in the living room, I took a deep breath. "I'm divorcing your mother," I said. To my surprise, they remained calm. "She cheated on you with that guy Grant, didn't she?" Aaron asked. I nodded solemnly. "Yes." "I figured," he muttered. "I heard her talking to him once. She spoke to him the way she talks to you, Dad." I sighed, regretting that I hadn't seen it sooner. Until recently, I had trusted her completely. "How long has this been going on?" Sophie asked quietly. 12 years, I admitted. She let out a slow breath. So, basically, since I was born, yes, I confirmed. Damn her, she muttered, then quickly apologized. I understood her anger and let it slide. Can I stay with you? She asked. Of course, I assured her. Me too, Dad, Aaron added. You were always there for us. Their words meant everything. I pulled them into a hug, grateful that they wanted to stay. We spent the rest of the day together in a quiet but somber mood. In the following days, things fell into a routine. George and Rhonda helped by picking up the kids after school and staying with them until I got home. Rhonda even made dinner a few nights, which was a huge help. On Tuesday, my lawyer Lisa called. Linda wants to visit the kids, she informed me. I frowned. The idea of her coming here unsettled me. What about the restraining order? We can temporarily suspend it from Friday evening to Sunday morning, Lisa suggested. It's important not to appear unreasonable. After some thought, I proposed that she meet the kids at her parents' house on Saturday, with them staying over Friday and me picking them up Sunday. Lisa relayed the terms to Linda's lawyer, and surprisingly, they agreed. One condition, Lisa added, no Grant or Natalie present. The kids might not be thrilled about seeing their mother, but it'll be worse if they have to face them, too. Linda's lawyer also requested the private investigator's report, something Lisa planned to send by Thursday. I also found out that Linda had hired Beth Sawyer, an attorney known for disliking clients who cheat. That irony wasn't lost on me. The next day, Lisa called again. Linda's lawyer accepted the terms, she said. The restraining order will be suspended for her from midnight Saturday until noon on Sunday. The kids will meet her, and if they're comfortable, they'll stay overnight. Reluctantly, they agreed. George and Rhonda arranged to take them on Friday and return them on Sunday. On Friday morning, I packed everything they needed for the weekend. Before heading out, we hugged, and I reminded them to call me if anything unexpected happened. After dropping them off at school, I went to work as usual. That evening, George picked me up, and we headed to Flat Stick Pub, a sports bar we often visited. Over burgers and beer, he filled me in. Linda showed up at 9 a.m., he said. The kids weren't exactly happy to see her, and they didn't bother hiding it. I nodded. Can't blame them. She admitted to the affair, he continued, watching my reaction. That caught me off guard. She actually admitted it? Yeah, and she says she still loves you. I scoffed. Do you think she'll try to fix things? No chance, George, I said firmly. 12 years of deception. I'm done. George nodded, taking a sip of his beer. Before I could say another word, a sudden, crushing pain exploded at the back of my head. I barely had time to react before I hit the ground. Dazed, I looked up and saw Grant standing over me, shouting, "I'll destroy you!" Instinct kicked in. I lashed out, kicking him hard in the stomach. He stumbled. I tackled him, fists flying. Punch after punch, I let out every bit of anger that had been bottled up inside me. I didn't even realize he was already unconscious. George and another man yanked me off him. Everything blurred, then darkness. I woke up in a hospital bed, sore and bandaged. You'll be fine after some rest, the doctor assured me. George was sitting nearby, grinning. You really messed him up, he said. Grant's in bad shape. It was him, wasn't it? I asked, my voice hoarse. George nodded. Yeah, it's Sunday morning now and the police want to talk to you. Moments later, 2 officers walked in. Sergeant Smith took out a notepad. Mr. Walker, can you tell us what happened? Grant attacked me, I said. I defended myself. The officer exchanged looks with his partner before nodding. Witnesses confirm your story. Security footage backs it up, too. Do you want to press charges? I didn't hesitate. Yes, absolutely. I also have a restraining order against him. The officers left, and not long after, Rhonda arrived with the kids. Linda walked in behind them. I stiffened. What's she doing here? My restraining order doesn't take effect until noon, Linda murmured, looking embarrassed. Sophie rushed over, eyes teary. Are you okay, Dad? I mustered a smile. I'll be fine, sweetheart. Aaron smirked. I heard you knocked Grant out. I glanced at George, shaking my head. Not exactly something to be proud of. But deep down, I couldn't deny it. It felt damn good. Linda's voice was soft, as she asked if I was okay. But before I could respond, Sophie spoke up for me. Yes, we'll take care of him. Aaron gave a small nod, his gaze sharp as he glanced at his mother. Linda hesitated, her eyes shifting between the kids and me. If you don't mind, I'd like to speak with your father alone for a few minutes, she requested. The kids exchanged looks before slowly agreeing. George and Rhonda guided them out, leaving Linda alone with me. She lowered herself onto the chair beside my hospital bed, her hands fidgeting as she stared down at them. John, she started, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't tell you how much I regret everything. I exhaled sharply. Well, like I told Natalie, sorry doesn't mean much now. My voice was calm but firm. You lied and cheated on me for 12 years. Now an apology is supposed to fix that. Was I really such a terrible husband? I shook my head. All I ever did was love and support you. Linda winced, her eyes full of pain. You were the best husband and father anyone could ask for. But even that wasn't enough, was it? I shot back. That's not how it was, she insisted. Isn't it? I challenged. Because from where I stand, it sure looks that way. She lowered her gaze. You don't understand. Then help me understand, I pressed. She swallowed hard, her hands clenching together. At first, it was just a way to secure the job, she admitted, her voice shaky. Grant made it clear that sleeping with him was part of the deal. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. It wasn't personal, it was just business. I felt my pulse spike. That's coercion, Linda. That's illegal. My hands curled into fists. Why didn't you come to me? We could have fought it together. My chest ached as the realization sank in. But no, I see it now. You wanted that job so badly that you were willing to do anything, even destroy our family. Her voice trembled. It was like making a deal with the devil. I scoffed. And now you want to blame me? I let out a bitter laugh. Let's be real, Linda. You chose to keep this going. You wanted it. You made your choice. Her shoulders slumped, shame washing over her face. I guess at some point, I convinced myself I could have both. My family and him. I studied her carefully. So you had feelings for him. That's why you kept it going. My jaw tightened. What was your plan? To keep this going forever? Did you really think I'd never find out? Her answer was barely audible. Yes, she admitted. I developed feelings for him, but I thought you loved me enough to accept it, to let me have this, and I tried my best not to let it affect you. I stared at her, stunned. Are you serious? My voice rose. Every moment you spent with him was a moment stolen from us. Every excuse, every lie, those were pieces of time and trust you ripped away from me. I let out a bitter laugh. Remember opportunity cost? Well, you made your choice, and you lost. Tears welled up in her eyes. But I still love you, she whispered. I never stopped. I exhaled slowly. Maybe, I admitted, but you stopped respecting me. I locked eyes with her. You told him you'd carry on this affair for life. And if I found out and divorced you, you'd accuse me of mistreatment." I saw her expression shift, her breath hitching. "Did you really think I wouldn't find that out?" Her face drained of color. You heard that?" "Yes," I said, voice steady. "And more. Like when you told Grant you'd rather spend time with him than with our daughter on her birthday." Linda flinched, as if I had physically struck her. "I must be a horrible wife and mother," she whispered. I shrugged. "Those are your words, not mine. But if the shoe fits..." I hesitated for a second before asking, "Did you really take a DNA test?" Her face went pale. "Yes," I confirmed. "Thankfully, both kids are mine." She gasped. "Oh my God. Did you really think I would..." I cut her off. "After 12 years of lies, can you blame me?" She sat in silence, visibly shaken. Finally, she asked, "What do you want me to do now?" "Sign the papers, Linda." My voice was firm, but not unkind. "Let's end this and get help, for yourself and for the kids. I don't want this to be uglier than it already is." Her hands trembled as she wiped at her eyes. "You're right," she murmured. "I'll sign them." Her voice broke. "I'm so sorry, John, for everything." I inhaled deeply. "Maybe one day I'll be able to forgive you," I said, though I wasn't sure if I believed it. She hesitated, then spoke softly. "Thank you for letting me see the kids this weekend." "You're welcome," I replied. Her eyes searched mine. "I know you don't believe me, but I do love you," she whispered. "I wish we could stay together." I looked away. "I don't believe you," I admitted, "but thanks for saying it." I sighed. "Maybe a part of me will always care, but that's not enough. Trust is everything, and after all this, I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone again." Her expression crumbled, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I understand," she whispered. "Goodbye, John." She leaned forward, pressing a soft kiss to my cheek, before turning and walking out the door. I watched her go, exhaling slowly. A few moments later, George, Rhonda, and the kids returned. "Is everything all right, son?" George asked. I steadied my voice. "Yeah, we talked. I think she's finally realizing the damage she's done." Sophie's eyes held a flicker of hope. "Does this mean you and Mom are getting back together?" I shook my head gently. "No, honey," I said softly. "But you both love each other," she protested. "For a marriage to work, Sophie, love isn't enough," I explained. "It takes trust. And right now I don't have that with your mom. One day you'll understand." Just then the doctor entered, did a final checkup, and officially discharged me. George drove me home with the kids, who sat quietly beside me, each lost in their own thoughts. That evening, I received an urgent call from George and Rhonda. Natalie had called them in distress. Linda had attempted to take her own life by overdosing on sleeping pills and alcohol. Natalie had found her just in time while stopping by Grant's house to pick up some of his belongings. A note sat on Linda's nightstand with only a few words: "I'm sorry." She had also written a letter to George. Linda barely survived and spent several days in the hospital. After undergoing a full evaluation, she was discharged into George and Rhonda's care and eventually moved in with them. Not long after, she signed the divorce papers without contesting anything. Lisa informed me that in 90 days, I would officially be a free man. Free, I thought. Yes, truly free. Grant and Natalie's lawyers swiftly arranged a settlement, ultimately granting me half of what I had originally pursued. After legal fees, I walked away with around $3.5 million. From that, I set aside $1 million each for Sophie and Aaron, ensuring they could attend any college of their choice. With the remaining amount, I started planning a Mediterranean cruise for us next summer. Grant was convicted of aggravated assault and attempted homicide, largely thanks to video evidence of his attack on me. He was sentenced to 10 years in state prison, with the possibility of parole after 8.5. I saw Linda occasionally when dropping the kids off at George and Rhonda's. Sometimes we exchanged words, but I could never look at her without remembering everything that had happened. She had started seeing a psychologist, trying to understand her choices and how things had unraveled. Over time, though, she managed to repair her relationship with the kids. That was all I could hope for. A few months later, I finalized our Mediterranean cruise plans. During the trip, I met Nikki, a wonderful woman from British Columbia, who was also going through a divorce. She was a little younger than Linda, with shoulder-length blonde hair and an infectious, upbeat energy. We spent hours talking, sharing our stories, and somewhere along the way, we found comfort in each other. Sophie would often tease me with a playful grin, humming "Daddy Has a Girlfriend," and nudging me whenever Nikki and I were together. When the cruise ended, Nikki and I exchanged contact information, promising to stay in touch. We spoke over email and Skype a few times a week, and each conversation brought us closer. Adjusting to life without Linda was challenging, but little by little, we found our rhythm. My boss was understanding about my need for flexibility, and I looked forward to the day Erin would be old enough to help with driving Sophie to school and taking on more responsibilities. Then one afternoon, George stopped by, his expression heavy. "They're planning to admit Linda to a psychiatric facility," he said gravely. I frowned. "Why?" He sighed. "Sophie sent her a photo of you and the kids having dinner with that woman from the cruise, the one from Canada." He hesitated. "Linda didn't take it well. She lost control." He swallowed. "Rhonda and I found her in the bathroom. She had cut her wrists." A chill ran through me. "Oh, God," I exhaled shakily. "I'm so sorry." A deep sadness settled in my chest, but beneath it, a strange sense of validation. For the first time, she was feeling even a fraction of the pain she had caused. She kept repeating, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," George said softly. "The doctors say, given her history, she needs long-term care. Rhonda and I are too old to provide that kind of support, so they're recommending institutionalization." "For how long?" I asked. He shook his head. "It's hard to say. Could be years, maybe longer." I nodded. "Let me know if there's anything I can do." George placed a hand on my shoulder. "I appreciate that, son." Then he left. Meanwhile, my relationship with Nikki continued to grow. We spoke often, and the more we talked, the stronger our bond became. I found myself thinking about her, wondering what a future with her might look like. When I told her about Linda's hospitalization, she listened with empathy. She understood the impact it had on me, the kids, and George and Rhonda. She invited me to visit her with the kids at her home, a 2-story log cabin set on 50 acres in northern British Columbia, a place she described as peaceful and secluded. I had never been north of the U.S. border, and the idea intrigued me. Who knows? Maybe this could lead to something more, but that's a story for another time. For now, I focused on settling into our new normal. The kids were adjusting to life without Linda in the house, and I was finding a routine that worked. My boss remained supportive, and I looked forward to the day Erin could take on some responsibilities, like driving Sophie to school. Life was moving forward, one step at a time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if the story was interesting.